today I have the real honor and pleasure of inviting Wendy Rose Williams. Hello, Wendy. How you doing?
Hello. Hi, Viv.
Hi. Now, Wendy, today we are going to talk about past life healing, regressions, and I'm sure lots of other stuff as well will come up during this interview. I'm so thrilled to dig into this topic. But before we start, Wendy, can you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So I am a past life energy healer. And what that means is I have the pleasure and the privilege of helping people release energy that does not serve them anymore. Typically, it shows up as chronic pain, both physical and emotional, anxiety, depression, PTSD, just stuck energy that is preventing people from really enjoying their life, feeling happy, feeling healthy, feeling that they do have purpose and that they can live that purpose and that they can attract the resources that they might need to live that purpose. So that's just a little bit about me.
That's wonderful, Wendy. How come you embarked on this journey as a healer? Did you know very early on in your life that you had healing gifts?
Uh, yes and no. That's a great question. I had a feeling for that as a child. I knew that instinctively, but like many of us, I was told it wasn't real and your imaginary friends aren't real. Well, guess what? I think our imaginary friends are our higher self and or our guides, there to assist us and support us. And I was just told that things weren't real or weren't appropriate. So I just stuffed a lot of the gifts. And then I had a very frightening experience with psychic abilities during junior high and high school. So I put the lid on it all, and I went off and got an MBA degree, got a master's in business administration.
Oh, gorgeous. Now, what happened the first encounter?
Yes. So what happened was I was the new kid in town. I had just changed schools in junior high, and there was this wonderful classmate who was just very popular, very smart, so shiny, so bright, just really, really cute, nice to everyone, great athlete. And he took me aside and touched my arm when we were working on an art project together, very, very appropriately, just sweet and friendly, and said, I want to know you better. How can I get to know you better? Will you spend some time with me? Will you go out with me? And the moment he touched my arm, I could see his death. And I knew it was going to be before the end of high school. I was
Oh.
in eighth grade. I didn't know
Mm.
what to do with that. So I just didn't know how to get support for that sort of inexperience and that sort of, sometimes we have precognitive ability. We're all intuitive. We all have psychic abilities and can just have those, particular moments. It's just some people have them more often than others. And we also can work to accept and work with those gifts, just like a muscle. You don't become an
Mhm.
Olympic athlete by just thinking about it. Yes, visualization is important, but you have to do the work too.
Absolutely. And I think, as we were saying as well before we started this interview, that uh, you need to go through things in life on a personal level as well to develop
Right,
and the personal
right,
growth.
right.
How has that journey been for you? When did that?
What that journey was like for me, like I said, I went traditional and conservative and got the MBA degree. I knew I very much wanted to get married and have children. So I did marry at 28, and we did have two beautiful girls with a fair bit of difficulty. There was an infertility journey, two ectopic pregnancies. And I also had a profound near-death experience when I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, who is now 25. And that really started to open the doors, Viv, because I started connecting with angels, and I could hear angels in a very profound way. And that had not been part of my world before. So here I was in my mid 30s having this very, very different experience. And it made me reconsider and more deeply understand what I had known as a child, had known, through my teens, and had just stuffed the lid on. So that was a big part of the opening.
And when you said you met angels, did they show themselves to you, or did they speak to you? How was the experience
Sure.
initially?
What happened was I was working at home alone, and I had this profound pain in my abdomen, and I passed out in the bathroom. There was so much pain, and I felt like an organ had ripped or torn. Prophetic dreams leading up to it, but I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what to make of them. And those prophetic dreams had shown, I was dreaming almost every night of seeing this big storm at sea and seeing this ship, and all the cleats would tear off it, the winches would tear off it, the masts would break, and the ship would break in two and go down. Doesn't take a master dream interpreter to tell you, Wendy, your ship's about to go down, pay attention. So I go down when this organ bursts, and I pass out on the floor. And when I come to, I only come to, Viv, because there's this insistent male voice that keeps saying, Wendy, Wendy, you've got to wake up now and call for help, or you're going to go home. So I opened my eyes, laying on my side in the bathroom, and I looked up, and I was shocked because the whole room was filled with angels. There were 4 or 5 angels. They were huge. They were floating a little bit off the floor, and there just was so much light coming from them. And he repeated this message, and my reply was, I understand, but I can't walk. I don't know how to get to the phone. And because this is 1997, so it's before we have a cell
Yeah.
phone glued to our hand, glued in our back pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And what he says is, you just have to be willing to try. And I think that was very important, because I think it was talking about us having to put in the effort. No one can do it for us. And also, guides, they can't violate our free will. If we're not asking for help, I did cry out for help as I was going down. I cried out to God. I cried out for help. So I think that's why the angels were able to come rushing in like that, because it was life-threatening. So the minute he said, you just have to be willing to try, I was able to, with a lot of effort, get up onto my hands and knees. And that also, what happened next also just blew my belief system wide open, because it was like being gently flown to the phone. I didn't have to walk. It's just like I was gently lifted once I'd made that effort. And I got to the phone and I called for help.
I was gonna say that. Did you get the extra energy, the help to take you to the phone, the spirit? And you
Yes,
just
you're
confirmed.
you're
You were just
so you're
telling me.
so right on. I got the A+ ride. I was very, very fortunate. So yeah, that's what happened. And I then had another experience with the angels. I was in the hospital for about a week. They didn't know where the blood loss was coming from, and we're just transfusing unit after unit of blood. I was in so much pain. I'm on morphine because I've blown through all the other pain relievers. I'm extremely concerned because I'm pregnant. No one wants to be going through this at any point, but particularly when you're pregnant. I was so concerned about the baby. And it was about the 3rd day that we agreed we were going to have to do surgery. It just wasn't going to resolve on its own, and I was officially bleeding out at that point because I was losing blood faster than they could transfuse it. So I agreed to the surgery. I was going to be the next morning at 7 a.m. And it was going to be 2 OBGYN physicians, including my own doctor that I knew really well, trusted. I knew the hospital, so I felt I was in really good hands. But Viv, I'd been really concerned because it was hard to stay conscious. I could feel myself walking between worlds. And what concerned me the most about that was I didn't really care. That is not my personality at all. So I've just always been like, let's get it done. Let's figure it out. It's going to be fine. So to just, feel that teetering and know that I was really considering going home was a concern. So I agree to the surgery. I have dinner the night before surgery. I'm alone in the hospital and I'm trying to visualize a positive outcome because that's so important. And the minute I did that, I popped right out of my body. Evidently, that was my best outcome. And I'm looking back over my shoulder at myself in the bed and thinking, oh my gosh, she just looks like a hot mess. And because, your hair hasn't been combed in 3 days, I'm like,
Yeah.
wiping the sheets. And I'm like, wait a minute, why am I referring to myself in the third person? Because I know I'm here, I'm out of the body. I feel great. I'm fine. I feel better by the second. And then I'm looking back in the bed and I'm just like working out, oh, that's me, but it's just a temporary me. It's an aspect of me in my body as Wendy Rose Williams. It's not the real full me. And I'm pretty blasé about it. I'm like, she's fine. I want to follow the light. So because I can see all this light coming down from the hospital room ceiling. So I follow that because I'm going home. And because that was my best outcome. And I pop up and go higher and higher and higher. And I'm getting that beautiful overview effect. And Earth is so gorgeous. And I'm following and following, feeling lighter and better. No more pain, no more worries. Everything's going to be great. How can it be anything else? And then I hit a point where it was like I ran out of gas. And I had this thought, oh, please don't make me walk through that long tunnel to get home. I don't think I'll make it. I don't have enough energy. And the minute I thought that, this beautiful, pristine escalator comes in. It's gorgeous. It's just for me. And I plop onto that. And because I got on the escalator and I was hanging over the handrail, that made me realize what my physical, to me, physical form was at that time. I should have been, I knew I was supposed to be like a beach ball, like this soul, and just so much energy, like a little lightning storm inside it. Instead, I'm like a tire with no air in it. And I'm just like over the railing, over the handrail of the escalator. So I get the ride up to home, and everyone's there waiting for me right at the top. And to get that hug, to get that unconditional love, it was just the biggest deal in the world. You can hear it still makes me emotional 25 years later. And the lesson in that, what was so profound, is we've got to learn how to give ourselves that unconditional love and just freedom and just be kinder to ourselves as well as to others, because getting that hug, and there were 18 or 20 beings of light there. I could sense my soul group family. I could sense all four of my grandparents. I could sense one of my best friends in this life. And some interesting things about that, my grandparents, my moms, I knew very well. They'd passed on. This made sense to me. But I also knew my dad's parents were there. I never met them. They died before I was born, but I knew them. There's a soul level recognition. And one of my best friends in this lifetime was there, and she's incarnated. So I recognized, oh, that's higher self energy at home. And we can also still be home, in the body. And the angels were in the back. So they all give me this huge hug. And then the same angel that was there, same group that was in my bathroom, he said to me, and now I recognized him, it was clear as day, it was Archangel Michael. And he said, welcome home. We're so glad you're here. You've done nothing wrong. You're welcome to stay. But you're going to need to decide quickly. And I remembered that very compromised body back in the hospital bed. And I thought, yeah, I know what he means. And he said, I can tell you three things. Number one, if you choose to go back, and I love the word choose, I was given a very respectful choice. If you choose to go back, you will have a successful surgery tomorrow. You will fully regain your health. This was huge. Weight of the world's coming off my shoulders. Number two, I can tell you your baby will be born healthy. This is tremendous information. Nothing could have made my heart happier. Number three was the kicker. Number three was, if you choose to go back, Your life will be very difficult, likely for many years, because you're not on your life path. And I was horrified. I was embarrassed. I just felt terrible. Here I am in my mid-30s. I'm not on my life path. I don't have the slightest clue what it is. So I just look at him and say, oh my gosh, please tell me. What am I supposed to be doing, not doing? I so want to do the right thing. And he just gently shook his head. And I knew he wasn't going to tell me. So I just look around at everyone else because I thought, come on, there's 18 to 20 people here. Someone's got to give me a clue. But I look around and no one will tell me, and I can feel my energy start to plummet again. So they start being so silly. And when we smile, when we laugh, when we watch a ridiculous old comedy that just makes us laugh, it's so good for us because it raises our vibration and frequency. And that's what we need. And we just make better decisions then. So what they're doing, oh, my soul family, they're like putting duct tape over their mouths. They're like locking it with the key and they throw away the key, but they're super comical. So I just feel better and I relax. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're not supposed to tell me. This is up to me to learn and figure out on my own. So Archangel Michael then says to me, what do you want to do? You need to decide now. The minute he said that to me, all I could see was our toddler's face. She was about 20 months old. She was adorable. And it wasn't just seeing her face in like a normal size. It was like IMAX screen size, like 70 foot. It filled my world view when he asked me, do you want to go back? And I said, yes, I do. I want to. I want to be a mother. I want to raise these two children. Nothing is more important to me, and I'll figure out the rest. So he says, great. And everyone gives me one more hug, Viv. And the hug, the second time, I caught on, it wasn't just unconditional love. It was also energy. It was healing. I don't think I would have made it through that surgery the next day without that download of energy that came from going home and from having this experience. So I go back down the escalator. I'm like looking over my shoulder. Everyone's like cheerleading and saying, you can do it. You'll figure it out. You're going to do great. And I'm like, okay. And I just go back into the hospital room and I just plop back into my body. It's like the easiest thing in the world. And then it was like, oh my goodness, this human container is in so much pain. And I also remember thinking, she's so little. Why is she just 5'2"? Those were kind of my thoughts. It was just like
breathing into that tiny body.
Exactly. It's like, why'd you choose such a little body? Surgery the next day, and what they discover is it was the fundus, which is an aorta at the top of the uterus, had ruptured. And they estimated I'd lost about 3/4 of my blood supply during that whole process. But successful surgery. I'm so grateful for it. So let me stop there. Do you have questions? I know that's a lot.
Wow, that was so amazing. Thank you so much for that. I had so many questions popping up in my head. But one thing I want to ask you is, when they said you're not on your life path, we all have a purpose here, right? In life, we're here to do a mission. How did you find your life path? What happened after you had your babies, and how did that? What did you like?
That's a great question. It took another 13 years to figure it out because I was 36 when my youngest was born. And what happened, the key events were the
You were
very
49 then, basically. Yeah.
Yes, the very day after she's born. It was a very short hospital stay. And I'm home the next morning holding her, not even having delivered 12 hours before. And I'm home, I'm alone, nursing her. And Archangel Michael comes in again and he says, your contract with your husband is complete. Just very factually. I'm not happy. I almost dropped the baby. I'm now arguing, not my finest moment. I'm now arguing with an archangel going, what are you talking about? What do you mean? My marriage is over. I just had a baby. what are you talking about? And he really didn't give me very much more information except to confirm that I was interpreting your contract as complete correctly. Because I thought, let's not jump to conclusions. Is he saying the marriage is over? So this was weighty information to hold on to. I didn't know what to do with it, but I knew it was the most deep truth. It's just, when you can feel it in your bones,
In your
it's
bones,
like
yeah.
you
Mm.
just know it's true.
Mm.
So we did our very best to be a great parents, to be respectful partners, but it was very hard because I knew it was done. And I would later discover my contract with my former husband was for a long-term marriage that we would both grow from considerably and to have beautiful children together, children plural. I could see it
Mm.
underlined. There's the second child, contract's complete. Yes, you can choose to stay, but you're really not going to be learning very much. If anything, if a contract is complete and you don't move on to what you're meant to be doing next. So we divorced when our daughters were 6 and 8. I chose to wait until they were both in school full time because I thought it would be easier to do joint custody and have them go back and forth to mom's home and dad's home. So that's what we did. And that's how we raised our girls who are now 25 and 27. So fast forward, how do I get to the spiritual awakening? For the first 6 years or so after the divorce, until our daughters are 12 and 14, I don't want anything to do with a new partner, just no interest. I'm rebuilding my life, my job, my career, raising the girls, building a house, just recreating life in the best way I can for all of us, for our new family, because we're still a family. It just has a different configuration. So what happens then when they're 12 and 14, I just know everything's going really well. And I just suddenly know it's time to meet a great guy. But Viv, I have no idea how to do it. So I asked, I'm not meeting anybody through, friends of friends, through church, and I'm super busy. So I asked younger girlfriends who I knew were actively dating. I said, how do you meet? How do you meet these great guys that you're meeting? And they're like, oh, Wendy, that's so easy. You just go on Match. You go on match.com. And I'm like, match.who? I don't know what they're talking about because I haven't dated in 25 plus years. And they're like, oh, well, it's a social media thing. It's a dating website. And you go in there and you put some photos in, you build a little profile. We'll help you. So girlfriends help me do this. The minute I change my geography in it to 10 miles from within me, this profile comes up, Viv, and I am mesmerized by the screen. I'm like, I know this man. I know this man. Where do I know him from? And again, it was just this soul level recognition that I'd not experienced very often. And I was reading through the profile, and it was very well written. It turns out he's a professional writer among other skills. So it's not trite, but I'm like 2 sentences ahead. I know what it's going to say before I read it, but it's in no way predictable. And the last line he wrote was, any woman on a spiritual journey, particularly someone interested in an LBL, we have to meet. This brings in the next contract that's critical, although I don't know it for a few months. He had the contract to wake me up spiritually, and did so by mentioning LBL, because when I look it up, I find Life Between Lives, I find Dr. Michael Newton, I find Journey of Souls, and this past life regression, and this is what I'm meant to find. So I write to him right away and say, are you referring to Michael Newton, Journey of Souls, Life Between Lives, a spiritual regression? I said, I have to be honest, I wouldn't consider myself on a spiritual path, but this is fascinating. I ordered the book. I'm waiting for it to get here from the library. Again, it's back in the day before Kindle, instant gratification. I would have had it in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So it takes us 3 weeks to meet, to organize our calendars. I think that was purposeful too, because it gave me time to get the book and read it. When he
Mm.
walked into the restaurant, we agreed to meet for lunch on a weekday, and I was there first. I'm just sitting on the bench in the foyer, looking at the door. When he walked in, it felt like the earth moved. It's like I knew nothing would be the same again. And he walked in, he recognized me immediately, and he came over. I couldn't stand up. I'm just like sitting on the bench, and he dropped down on his knee in front of me and is looking like right in my face. And he says, I know you. I know you. So it's the same thing as, happening from when we first saw each other's profiles and couldn't figure out. 3-hour lunch. It's past lives. We have tremendous past lives. We found 21 of them together. So that's what got me really to start and to get on my path. And then over time, we worked through the second contract together, which was for him to break my heart repeatedly, for me to stand in my power fully without abusing it. That is a brilliant contract, obviously very painful. No one wants their heart broken repeatedly, but I wasn't standing in my power. I would shirk it because I was so afraid of abusing my power that I didn't want to step into my power because I didn't want more karma for abusing my power. So that was being resolved. And I also had a lot of karma from being a heartbreaker. So that's why I had to
Ah,
experience
balance it all
my
out.
heart
Mm-hmm.
broken. So
Mm-hmm.
everything was just balancing
Cleared.
out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
that's what happened. And then he gets me to my first past life regressionist because he's already on that path. He's had multiple past life regressions. He's been studying this for years. He's getting ready to go for his second life between lives, which is why he put that in his profile, because it was such a passion and an interest at that time. And so he finds the first therapist that I go to. My first past life regression I had, it was just 2 hours. It changed everything. I
Mm.
go, I'm an MBA. I'm left-brained. I'm a bit of a controller. I'm super organized, no spiritual practice, suspicious as can be this whole process, but I'm also very drawn to it. So the therapist did a good job as she's pre-screening me on the phone, and she tried to gently say, you're not an ideal candidate. You may not be easy. We're just going to have to see what happens. And you just have to be willing to give it a try, and we'll see if we can get you to relax, because I have a feeling that might be challenging for you. And I thought, yep, you got that right. So I went, and it was amazing in those 2 hours. And she's French. She's from um, Paris, and I'm from Quebec originally. So that beautiful,
Oh.
that
Mm-hmm.
English being spoken with that French accent.
Mm-hmm.
And she's this beautiful little tiny petite dark-haired woman. And she just felt like home to me in a lot of ways. I was like, she's the right person to go to. So I was very comfortable with Dominique, because it's you have to pick the right energy of the healer
Oh,
you want to work
absolutely.
with.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be the right voice, the right energy. You have to feel
Yeah,
comfortable.
comfortable
Uh,
and relaxed. Mm.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So in that 2 hours, I not only visualize 2 past lives, I release a lifetime of anxiety. And I came out of there feeling like a new person. I felt like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have chains holding me back anymore, because
Mm.
I'd definitely been living it small. And I felt so much more freed up. We also revisioned some scenes earlier in this lifetime, because past life doesn't have to be literally a previous incarnation. Often we benefit from revisioning things in this lifetime, and that gets us healthier and happier and more freed up, because we can understand it from the more adult, more experienced place that we are now. And when we have our higher self and guides helping explain it to us, it all suddenly makes sense.
Mm.
I then ended up I had 4 sessions over the next 3 years. I returned to her for a life between lives that was amazing. When I transcribed the recording, that 4-hour session, I had 65 pages of information I had not been able to access before. So
Wow.
this getting me on the life path. It's like I was being given so much help,
Mm-hmm.
so many shortcuts, because I felt like I was slow to step to the plate, and I was given an opportunity to really catch up.
Accelerate.
Uh,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
mhm. So that's what happened. And then by the time I was having the fourth, so I had the 2 sessions with the Newton therapist, and then had 2 sessions with a quantum healing hypnotherapy, Dolores Cannon trained therapist. And at
Wow.
the end of
Mm-hmm.
that second session, that therapist said to me, "Do you know that you're not only speaking as your higher self completely fluently and guides are coming in and out?" She said, "Do you know you're also saying to me things like, ask her this, tell her this." She said, "You're also doing like the therapist part. Do you know that you're meant to likely train for this?" And I said, "I know. It's just I can't wait. This is amazing." And then I got in my own way a little bit, and I just said, "Oh, that's going to be expensive. Oh, that's going to be a lot of time and effort." I didn't really research it well enough. I didn't just plain old surrender and say, "Yes, I want to do this. Make it easy. Make it come together." I didn't surrender it. And so I kind of like was putting it off. It's like, "Oh, that's supposed to be after my daughters graduate from college, and I'll have more time and more money, and I can look at exploring it then." That wasn't what was supposed to happen. So when I realized, oh gosh, I just need to say yes and let it go and not know how it's going to come together and expect it to be amazing, because that's the biggest decision we can make. Does the universe have my back?
Mm-hmm.
Or is everyone always out to get me?
Yeah.
It's just those, you've got to make that decision. And if your subconscious and
Mm-hmm.
unconscious is bubbling up with the negativity, you've got to get it up and release it, because you'll be tripping yourself up otherwise. So what happened next was that quantum healing hypnotherapy therapist, she introduced me to someone who was taking just a few students for one-on-one training to become a past life regressionist. So I trained with him one-on-one, and same thing, I raced through the curriculum so fast. He said, "There's nothing else I can teach you." And I've been doing this for 20 years. So because I was getting to the place where I was meant to be. So I then become, a few years later, I become the past life regressionist for my now former boyfriend, who woke me up spiritually. And that becomes my first book, his session. Blinded his identity, of course, and with his permission. But it was such a powerful session that becomes my first book.
Wow, amazing. Now, can you please explain quantum healing? What's the difference in quantum healing and normal after past life healing?
Sure. So quantum healing hypnotherapy was created by Dolores Cannon, who was an amazing woman. She practiced it for over 50 years. It was a modality, a methodology she came up with herself, looking at us as very whole beings and just using that quantum field. So she was very open-minded. She originally came to it. Her husband was in a very
Yeah.
serious car accident, and she was
Mm-hmm.
trying him more comfortable because he was in a wheelchair. He was originally the hypnotist, and then
That's right. Yeah.
started teaching her, and she just took off with it. So more than a 50-year career with it, and she trained so many therapists, and she was open-minded to look at, we may have had lives on other planets,
Yeah.
and that could be causing
It's,
issues now and in other dimensions. So
yes.
she was very, very broad-minded, and she traveled throughout the Ozarks, offering these powerful sessions that were time unlimited. They were like 4 to 6 hour, very in-depth sessions, because she didn't expect that she'd ever be able to see that individual again. So it was like a one and done, do as much as we can in this one tremendous day for the person. So that's how I
Wow,
was trained originally.
she she was a legend, Dolores. I love her work. I've
Yes,
been,
amazing woman of, not only the caretaking of her husband, but raised 4 children, and all the service that she did. And I then became aware of Dr. Brian Weiss. So I went and trained with him in person, one-on-one,
yeah.
and also circled back around, and the way I worked via the Newton philosophy and journey of souls that I'd first entered through. Was I trained with one of Dr. Newton's first degree students, who was on her own at that point, and I trained with Karen Wells. So, because I just wanted to get as much training as I could to be able to help people and have these, this variety. I also became a Reiki master, energy healer along the way. I became a certified spiritual teacher. And I also did 2 years of formal training to become a channel. And I thought it was all for, personal growth and passion and enjoyment. And that's what I expected it would be. I thought I'm just going to, continue working in industry. I worked for large hospital organizations and did business development. And I thought this is how I, support myself and my daughters well. But surprise, biggest fears, they need to be eradicated, because when you can release those fears, you're setting yourself free and realizing it's you tripping yourself up.
Yeah.
So my biggest fear was, how do I continue, supporting the girls? Because that was long haul, to be doing the single mom thing from when they're 6 and 8. And I knew they were meant to go to college. I knew they were meant for higher education beyond that. My oldest is a veterinarian. My youngest is an engineer. And I knew that from when they were little. And so I just wanted to be able to help provide that for them. So what happens in 2017, as I'm finishing up all this marvelous personal interest training, is I get laid off from my wonderful, stable job. I'd been there 10 years. I had planned to stay there through retirement. And it just was really scary, because here I've got 2 daughters in college.
I bet.
And the stakes are high financially.
Yeah.
So for someone I had some poverty consciousness. I had a lot of vows of poverty from past lives, which is very common for people. And also, it's also common for healers to have been punished for helping and for having had gifts and abilities and for having shared them. So there can be a lot of fear factor with coming out of the closet with your spiritual gifts and just showing who you truly are. And that's painful, when you can't share your gifts, or just sharing them in such a, small way or secretive way. It's not, you're not on your life path. You're not really living your purpose. So what happened was, I said, okay, what I'm going to do is traditional job search, but I'm also going to start a website. I'm going to do both, and I'm going to be open to all possibilities. I'll see which one takes off, or maybe I can combine the two. Maybe I'll find a manageable part-time traditional employment and also be growing my business. And that's not what happened. I went full in on offering the spiritual offerings, and just got a business coach, spiritual teacher, because I really believe if you're going to be a spiritual teacher, I believe you should have a spiritual teacher. And I also think that person should change over time. So just my personal experience.
Yeah, I have a coach as well. Yeah, I think it's very, very important.
It is.
Wow, that's amazing. And I have done regression healing. I've gone to my past 3 lives. So I know, my past life and the second and the third back. And I can actually see why I am the way I am today, and why I have those fears, what's holding me back, the chains, and how the energy has been passed on into this lifetime.
Yes.
And now my job is to clear that. And
yes,
and clean trauma from so many generations back, family history lines.
The generational, the ancestral. Yeah.
I think the regression healing is so fundamental in your personal development, because it will give you a deeper sense of your higher self.
Exactly. Being able to connect with your higher self and getting grounded and grounding and clearing your energy. And then you can keep raising your vibration and frequency and really connecting, depending on your belief system, heaven, the light, the universe, God, whatever that higher power is. And we can become the bridge and just bring in that that peace and the love and the joy and the gratitude and whatever we want to experience, and we create and we co-create, and really getting aligned with that purpose.
And the skills as well. I think a lot of the
Yes.
skills we have are from past lives,
Yes, so true.
depending.
Who want to be writers. And I think the statistic is like 90% of people would like to be able to write a book and share. And I think it's something like 10% actually get that accomplished. And the barriers are really gone, because with self-publishing, you don't have to have the agent and the publisher anymore like you used to require. So it's definitely something that's much more possible for a lot of people. So I love helping people with that, or if they want to start that spiritual business, but they're just not sure how, and they need to release some fears and do some work to be able to see and get that clarity, to be able to really hear their higher self and their guides, to really hear God again, whoever angels, whoever they most relate to and want to get that wisdom and support from. Or sometimes it's all really from within. People really want to connect with their higher self and they're just not relating. And that's fine. It's completely however it works for that person.
Amazing. And you were mentioning the poverty mindset as well, that a lot of healers have a poverty mindset. And I think
Yes,
overall in the general public, there is a poverty mindset, daring stepping outside your comfort zone. You're
there
comfortable with what
is.
you have.
There is, and there's a lot of socialization of it. There's a lot of family energy that's put into that, or the church telling us, or whoever it might be. But things like money is the root of all evil, that is not true. Money is completely neutral. It's a tool. It's something to be used wisely. And that's just, simply up to you. Because if it's someone that's meant to be a philanthropist, and that's their life purpose, and they're stuck back on the 25 lives that they had where they took vows of poverty as nuns and monks, and I can just help them to get that sorted out, because they're feeling such a painful disconnect, because they know they're meant to start this foundation and this charity, and they need to be able to do that, but they're stuck back in that. My grandfather had this interesting expression, and it was a joke, but I didn't know it, because when you're under 8, you just don't have the filter, so you're just taking everything in at face value. And he used to say as a joke, "Oh, money, oh my gosh, that filthy lucre." So I thought money was bad. It was dirty. It was like, ooh, it's like, oh, I shouldn't want this or need this or have this. Well, I can't live my purpose like that.
No, that's right.
So,
Yeah.
that bubbled up, or people having a lot of issues around self-worth and deservedness. And they'll just say, oh, well, I can't possibly do that. That would take $10,000 for me to do that. And I've never had that in my life. And then again, it was just like me, where I was originally turning down, delaying becoming a past life regressionist, because I thought it was going to be very expensive and be so hard and take so much time. Checked it out thoroughly at all. And I hadn't asked for help with it. So when I then started having some dreams in that area, and realized it was so fast and so easy, so delightful, so affordable. It just,
Wow.
just
Yeah.
it depends what we're meant to align with.
And I think money is just energy. You recreate energy all the time. Energy comes, flows.
Mhm.
It's hard to attract abundance. Everything's
Yes.
got the meridians.
Yes, because it needs to be that natural flow, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very feminine. And also, we've got to balance our divine masculine and our divine feminine within us, the two sides of the body, with
Yes.
the right side being that active masculine giving side, but the feminine, that
receiving.
attracting, natural attracting. And it just, like, you just contact me out of the blue. And it's so wonderful and delightful to hear from you and get this request. I mean, that was my feminine receiving side. I didn't contact you and, say, I've researched all your videos and I think I'm a good fit because, that's the masculine side.
Yeah, yeah,
Could I
true.
please be in a conversation with you? It's just, we have to balance it up.
Yeah. And how do you find that balance if you haven't done the healing work? I mean, for me, I stepped into my balance when after my spiritual awakening healing journey,
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
which I'm still on.
Right, right.
But
I was just going to say that's a continual journey, isn't it?
yes, it's never ending, never ending.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
can certainly say that I am more in tune with my female and male
Right. Right.
energies. Whereas if you're too much in your male, you become very unbalanced. It's very hard
You
to,
do. You
and the
do.
thoughts take over, your ego takes over when you are in.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And our society has rewarded the masculine type of energy. Are
Mm-hmm.
you an MBA? And I apologize for the generalizations, but this is how it's been traditionally, that, the lawyer, the physician, it's changing now, but it used to be these were very masculine professions, or you were a woman doing them, but it was hard because you had to really be in your masculine energy much of the day doing that. And it was pretty exhausting. So getting that balanced up a lot of times is a journey to heal our relationship with our mother and or our father, because they're also, they can be kind of representing that masculine and feminine for us. Often the dreams are really important. And the energy chiropractor that I saw for years, she taught me this really easy, neat technique to just cross your shins one over the other. My left shin went over my right shin when I said that. And then cross your arms the other way. So I've got my left shin over my right. So I'm going to put my right arm over my left arm and just give myself a little hug. And then just close your eyes and then just say center. And you can feel your energy more going into the middle. So you're in your center now. You've balanced your masculine and your feminine, and you're more in your heart, and you're more in your solar plexus and your gut wisdom. And you're not so caught up in your left brain, because that can get you trapped in your ego when you're trying to figure out everything with logic and you're just thinking it to death. We forgot about our body wisdom and muscle testing and the primal energies, because our bodies are so wise. So, being willing to not willing, just embracing that piece of it too. But that was part of how I started to do it. And then healing with healing my relationship with my mother and with my father, because I needed to do both. Some people it's with one or the other, and some won't relate to that, but it's pretty rare. Often we choose the parents where they're going to make us bubble up what's the hardest for us. And that's why families of origin can just be complex and tricky.
Yeah, and it's soul contrast as well. We had to learn things and plan at school, to evolve, grow as human beings, and we contract our
Absolutely.
parents and whoever is our partners, our children, our
Absolutely.
animals, whatever, to be part of
Yes.
this contract. It's like a movie, it's almost like
Yes.
you do a script. This is what it's going
Right.
to
Right.
look
Who are the
like.
players? What's the plot?
Yeah, and here's the timeline,
Yes. That's
till
a
your life.
great way. That's a great way to look at it, and know that some of those players might be in a play with you again in the future, and you really, or in the past, and you really switch roles. So you might have a bit part in one, or maybe you're doing stage set, or you're painting the equipment, and in the other one you're front and center stage and you're the queen, or you got the big part, but you won't always, it's meant to be all the different roles. Another thing, Viv, I found that has been so helpful in my own healing, and it's why I was happy to become a Reiki master, was to just be able to work with the chakras. So those 7 major chakras in your body. as well as to, I learned separately, it's more of a shaman technique. How do you balance up the 4 elements in your body, your fire and water, earth and air? Because if you are way out of balance, if you're super low in any of those, life, it's not like pushing a wheel easily. It's like a square wheel, like in the Flintstones. You're
Yeah,
like trying
right.
to push
Okay.
this square
Mm-hmm.
wheel. It takes so much effort. I had very, very little fire. I was almost all water, and I had addressed my earth, and my air energy was great, but I had so little fire. It became comical when I finally got that resolved, literally just a few months ago. And first my oven won't work, and I'm like, what is wrong with this oven? And then the 4 burners won't work. And I'm renting this lovely little lakefront cabin. So I contact my host, and he's so gracious. And he says, oh, Wendy, there's nothing wrong with it. I just need to put a new propane tank on it. Your stove and oven runs off propane in the cabin. I'm like, what? That's a thing? I didn't know that. All he had to
Oh,
do was put it. And I was like,
yeah.
oh, I'm low on fire. Now I've got a lot more fire, because our home and property is trying to get our attention. It's trying to help us and
Mm-hmm.
reflect what's going on with us. So if you have electrical things going on all the time, light bulbs are popping, the computer won't work, ground yourself, because you need more grounding. So all the electrical stuff's trying to get your attention to tell you that. So
How
the very
interesting.
Yes. So the very next day after the stove and the oven gets fixed, I have a friend over, and we're barbecuing salmon burgers, and we're all excited to be making our nice dinner. And 2 minutes into it, she's like, oh, Wendy, it just ran out of gas. There's no gas. There's no fire. I was like, of course there's no fire. So again, I contact my he's like, oh, Wendy, you're really going through the propane over. He's kidding me. They just were empty. You can't, there's no meter on
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
They
yeah.
just were
Bad
like
luck. Yeah.
fine. And I could feel my fire coming in more. And then so we get the one changed on the barbecue, and Jan says to me, do you have a like a lighter, one of those long-handled lighters? I was like, sure, I've got a couple of those. Let me grab those for you. They were all out of fuel but one. I'm like, again, no fire. So I just kept meditating, praying, doing self-healing, working with healers. I was like, I've got to bring my fire in. So Viv, it came in about 2 or 3 days later, and it was hysterical. I got so hot. I never had hot flashes during menopause, but I thought this must be what that feels like. I got so hot. I had to go take all my clothes off. And I was like, I think I need a cold shower. And I said to my guides, what is this? They said, congratulations. Your fire finally came in, and now we can balance your 4 elements. And
Wow.
my whole life changed. It was amazing. My house that had been on the market for a long time sold. I met this wonderful new man, so many fantastic new clients. It's just like you have to balance your elements.
Wow. And I wonder what, like water and air, what would that symbolize in the house in your
So
particular?
water and fire is what I help clients balance first, if it's not already balanced. And fire is that masculine,
Mm-hmm.
constructive, getting things done.
Go
It's
get
the
it. Yeah.
furnace,
Mm-hmm.
furnace for our body, one step after another. And the water, that feminine, natural ebb and flow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a Cancer, and there's water's always moving all around me. So those got balanced. And then earth, that's feminine. It's being able to receive from Mother Earth, be in our body, be happy to be in our body, and be a physical primal being, and be grounded and really in the moment. And then the air energy I see as our ability to connect with the divine, to be lighthearted, to be willing to surrender. You don't have the weight of the world on your shoulders. It's just that airiness, that lightness,
Mm-hmm.
connecting was very easy for me once I stopped denying it. But I had to get very grounded and in my
Yeah.
body. The big journey with that too. And then the fire,
Wow.
the last one.
That was super interesting. I never ever made that connection. I had some electricity problems lately. I think about that.
A lot of light workers do. So it's just making sure we're really grounded, really clear, and just let it go. You know, just because we can go through electronics more quickly than most people because we're vibrating high, and we can be changing dimensions a lot, and we can be changing, you know, planets and timelines based on how you're helping clients and what healing you're doing for yourself. So I think some of the electronics is like, woo. Yeah. So like I wouldn't be able to turn the TV on. It just would not come on for me. And I'd hand the remote to one of my daughters, and as a joke, I'd say, hey, tech support. And they could turn it right on. It would come right on. They're like, Mom, it's you. It's you.
My TV in the kitchen just goes white in the morning. I watch, you know, the morning TV for like 10 minutes, and then it's just pure white light every single morning.
Yep, you're bringing in a lot of white light. Yep, and so the things just kind of mirror it. Yeah.
My God, I never thought about it. I thought like the connection and what's wrong with the TV.
Yep. So when there's anything going challenging with the house, just think, is this fire, water, earth, or air? Might there be something going on with one of those for me that I can get more balanced? And then I could like lay my hands literally on like the large appliance. And once I figured it out, I could heal like the washing machine that wouldn't work or the dryer that wouldn't come on. Once I balanced myself, then it's like, okay, everything's got energy. Let's just treat it like it's a patient or a client, and just or like the car won't start. It's like, okay, that's interesting. What's going on there? And just see if I needed to balance my own energy. And I would just like get out of the car and just, you know, ground myself and just ask, okay, let's do that again. Get right back in. And now it starts perfectly. Because I wasn't grounded enough, so it wasn't going to be safe for me to drive. So the car's not going to start.
How do you ground yourself quickly? Like, have you got any
quickly? I just stand and I ask to be a tree. I ask to send the joy fruits down from the bottom of my feet and to connect with the magnetic core of Mother Earth. And while I'm there, bring up the fountain of youth energy and everything else I need. And now I'm really grounded. I'm in my body. I'm on the planet, versus, you know, so much connecting up
flying high
with angels and God and fairies, you know, or wherever it might be.
Wow. Yeah, I think like a tree as well. I have the roots digging deep down.
Yes.
You're standing very
yes. And you can picture, you can also just ask Mother Earth to like give you a hug and like come up from below. I picture her and she's just gorgeous, and she's got this long green flowy dress on, and just I picture her coming up and giving me a hug, and then I'm like, oh, there we go. Now I'm in my body. now I'm an earthling on the planet.
Oh, I love it. All right, Wendy, where you already said to me your biggest fear. You know, I always ask that question, but you said that when you had your 2 daughters and you lost your job, that was.
Yes, definitely. That was one of the biggest ones. The 2 biggest fears I've had was the financial, just not being able to take care of myself and my loved ones. So that's been a journey to release that. And I think you know, we peel the onion, it keeps on going. The other biggest fear was that I would not have a wonderful romantic partner. And I think that was me releasing a lot of the karma around that. And there was a fair bit of interference in that area too, from other individuals who, again, I'm just going to choose to look at it as a favor that they were helping exaggerate that for me, so it would get my attention, so that could get better. And guess what? I met him 2 months ago. Well, it's been so easy and so supportive, and you know, just didn't really see it coming. And the difference this time, Viv, was I spiritually surrendered it completely. Yes, I did go back on Match because I just moved to a new state and really didn't know anyone here. So I went back on Match. But what I said to my guides was, please bring me men of integrity, bring me men with open hearts who are spiritually open-minded, and just choose for me, pick for me, you know, pick pick some wonderful men for me to meet. And then to my surprise, to my absolute amazement, I went on 7 dates in 8 days
Wow.
and
Well done.
really met some
Yeah.
quality guys and
Mm.
just had the good fortune to choose from there. And it was such a different process. It's like for the first time in my life, I wasn't projecting all this worry and anxiety into it because it was like I wanted a wonderful partner too much, but I would be so up in my head about it and I would project all this worry into it. And this was the first time I just was like, okay, I'm going to surrender it. And I also listened very respectfully to what my guides had to say. I don't always like it, but I do choose to do my best to try and listen and to act accordingly because they're giving me great advice. And they told me a couple of things I didn't love about myself. And they said, we're inviting you to change those things and you will have a happier, better connection with your new partner. So I said, yes, I will do those things.
Wow. Thank you for being so open and sharing your life with me. I feel so taken by your personality and your energy, and you're
Oh,
such a beautiful soul.
well,
Um,
likewise. Thank you so much. I so appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and how fun to learn that we both have the daughter with the bunny and
and
dogs
the
and
dogs
other,
and very
yeah,
similar life paths too,
yes,
very,
yes,
very similar.
yes.
Where do you hope we are in 10 years, Wendy, from now in the world?
Where I just see us and the reason I'm here, I really, really feel that we're going to see and experience world peace within our generation. And I know it may not look that way, but I truly believe I can just see that it's like the teeter-totter. There's more energy has moved toward peace. It's just so many things needed to be brought up that needed to change. So that's why it looks super messy and upsetting. And don't watch the news. It's just, the news is programming. It's called news programming for a reason. My choice is to look for information. It doesn't
Mm,
have no idea of what's going on, but I don't need to be hammered by the negativity of the news programming. And I believe if you really look for information and just tune into, because that peace has got to come from within. I think it's part of us balancing up our masculine and feminine. And I really see us in a place I can see so much energy. Whenever I see the masters and the angels, I can just see them put their hands out. Mary Magdalene in particular, I see her put her hands out and I just see nothing but doves symbolizing peace
peace,
coming
yeah.
off her hands. And it's in
Hmm.
some of the famous oil paintings with her. The doves are there. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm here. And this is the time. This is the pivotal time that we can choose that we're going to have peace on earth. And it's no longer going to be an impossibility or a platitude or an expression on a Christmas greeting. It's so much more. And there's so many angels here to help. There's so many underemployed or unemployed angels because they're here, but we have
Hmm.
to ask for help. We have to
Hmm.
be willing to do that versus just soldiering on. Well, I know best, and this is the way it's always been done, and this is what's obvious, and this is what the logic says. It's not helpful. It's just that time to go within and do our own work and find what makes me feel peaceful and loving and happy, and how can you really get in that moment and not be overly concerned about the past and overly worrying about the future, because that's the anxiety and the depression, is when we're too focused in the past or the future and we're not right here now, have
Hmm.
this delightful conversation and everything is just great. um,
Yeah.
so
Love
that's where
it.
I see us. I've come in multiple times with that mission. And this is the mission. I can hear so many guides. I can hear God. I can just hear so many higher beings of light saying, you know, and nodding and smiling. This is the time. This is the moment.
Very exciting times to be alive, and the peace starts within us. And I
Yes.
have that peace as well.
Yes.
And open your heart.
Yes.
Operate from your heart.
Yes. Yes. Which takes courage. You know, one needs to be vulnerable, and you have to be strong and balanced to be able to do that. But we're all so capable of that and can get assistance to do that.
Thank you so much, Wendy. I loved having you here today. I am so thankful for your contribution to this world. You're amazing.
Well, thank you. Likewise, Viv. My pleasure.